Hey, what is up guys? My name is Cherno. Welcome to episode 34 of Game Programming. So, last time we took a look at this awesome void tile that we created, and basically now we're actually able to go on and draw or render these tiles. Now, we've handled every kind of exception, right? We've got the thing saying that if it's 0, right? If our random generator level here generates a 0, it's going to generate a random number from 0 to 3. Inclusive of both. If it does actually generate a 0, it's going to place a tile.grass at that coordinate, which is great. A grass tile, rather. I'm talking on code here. It'll place a grass tile at that coordinate, which is great. If it's not 0, it's obviously not going to execute this code, and it's just going to give us a black tile, right? In other words, it's not going to crash the program. Everything's going to work perfectly. Now, we've handled all that, so now we can actually get on to rendering. And the way that we do that is, I'm sort of going to split that into two parts as well. Because first of all, we actually need to handle offsets. Now, I talked a little about offsets a few episodes ago in the screen class here, where I said that that this XP, that the absolute position is going to be Y plus this offset type deal. And today we're actually going to talk about how we apply offsets. All right. So this is the tile position, right? But the thing is, if we actually take a look at this render tile method in the screen class right now, what it tells us is that the absolute position of the map on the map of the tile, right? The absolute position on the map of the tile that we're rendering is the actual pixel that is rendering, right? That gives us a number from 0 to 15. Hang on. Yep. Okay. Just yeah. So it gives us a number of. So I was just clearing my throat there. It gives us a number between 0 and 15, right? Depending on which pixel is up to rendering. So don't worry about this first one, right? Yeah. But the second one gives us the actual Y position, or in this case, X position, Y position. It gives us the actual Y position or the X position of the tile on the map. Right? But think about it this way. What about when the player actually moves? Right? So think about it this way. When you actually move the player, the map obviously has to scroll. The map has to move. And if you actually look at these two variables that we've created, they don't actually take into account. They don't actually take into account when the player moves. And that's a bit of a problem because, yeah, we need to basically tell this thing that when the player moves, so for example, if I open up our game here so I can actually demonstrate it, if we move this way, we need to be like, all right, the player has offset the map, I don't know, 500 pixels Y, all right, plus Y, for example. And we actually need to calculate that so that we can then update the locations of the tiles to be in a different location. So to do that, we actually need to make a offset, a set offset method. So over here in our screen class, just below the render tile method, we're just simply going to make a method. But first we're actually going to make two variables. So up here, right over here, we're just going to type public int x offset and then y offset. And we're not actually going to give them any values right now. We could, but we don't really need to. Because we're going to set them anyway here. But yeah, public int x offset and y offset. And that's it. I'll actually just clean this up a bit, just to make it look nicer. But yeah, public int x offset and y offset. And those are going to actually store the offset value. So if I go into here, I'm actually going to make a method, a public void method called set offset. And it's going to accept two parameters, x offset and y offset, both integers. Offset. And again, what we're simply going to do here is type this dot x offset equals x offset, and this dot y offset equals y offset. All right. So what is this doing? When we actually run this method, when we call this method, we input two parameters, two integers, x offset and y offset. And then what we do is we actually set these two parameters that are accessible in this screen class equal to the two parameters that we input when we call this method. Okay? So now, in other words, we've got these variables in this class. We can now move on to, applying them into our into our render tile method to actually calculate what the offset is. And that's kind of simple as well. All we have to do here, because remember, this is the position of the tile. We don't want to mess around with this because that is the pixel that is up to rendering. So we definitely don't want to touch the pixels, otherwise we'll end up, skewing our sprites, which we don't want to do. What we do want to do though is adjust this variable, right? This Y position variable. And the reason we sort of want to adjust that is because that is the location of the tile on the map. So we want to be like, all right, if the player's moved 200 pixels to the right, we want to add 200 pixels to this X position. Now, before I actually do that, all I want to do here is simply add, offset, the offset to the X offset to the X position, and the Y offset to the Y position. Before I actually do that, to help you guys understand why I want to do what I want to do now, if I open the game, you'll see that if I go right, the map is moving right. Okay? Now that's not cool. It should be moving the other way. That should be moving right, because remember, our player is going to be right over here. When he moves right, or in other words, when he, walks right, the map sort of needs to go left, if that makes sense. Otherwise, because in other words, what we're sort of doing here is we're not really moving the player, we're moving the map. All right? We're moving his location on the map. So if we hit the right, just right now, if I just hit the right arrow key on this game, you'll see that it looks like we're walking left. It looks like we're just moving the map right. That's incorrect. We should reverse it. And to do that, all I'm going to do here is, instead of going ahead and saying that XP is going to equal XP plus this X offset, I'm just going to do the opposite and go like, XP is going to minus equal the X offset. And again, this line of code is the same thing as saying this. All right. XP minus equals X offset is the same as saying XP equals XP minus X offset. It's just a shorter way of saying it. All right. And that is it. I'm going to do the same thing for Y. And that's it. That's as simple as it is. All right. All I'm doing here is I'm saying that we're adjusting the location, the X location of the tile, by the offset. And same thing with the Y as well. We're displacing the Y position of the tile by the offset, whatever the offset may be. Now that's great. We've adjusted this, and now we have an awesome system for actually figuring out the location of the map and the location of the player. We've now properly offset all the tiles. Brilliant. Now, one thing we do need to do is call this method somewhere, because this is the method that actually sets our offset. So if I go back to my level class here, over here, where we're rendering, all I'm going to do here is simply at the very top here, I'm just going to go ahead and say screen, and again, we can access screen because there's a parameter here, screen dot set offset, and then I'm going to set the offset to X scroll and Y scroll, and that is it. All right. All I'm doing here is I'm setting the offset equal to X scroll and Y scroll, which of course is the actual location of the player. And that's it. That is just how simple it is to actually set offsets. And yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this episode of Game Programming. If you did, please hit the like button and give the video a favorite. Next time, we'll take a look at actually moving on to getting the required tiles here and rendering them onto the screen. So we'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.